Okay then guys, what's going on? Cloud Plays here and welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're inside of Saints Row. Now this video is going to have a fair amount of confusion with the most recent reviews with regarding the new Saints Row reboot. There has been a lot of controversy around this back-end movement and how it's actually been not the greatest kickstart, and today we're going to discuss what's going on and what my opinion is with regards to it here on the video. So if you haven't already, smash that beautiful blue thumbs up and subscribe with post notifications turned on. It would be greatly appreciated. With that being said, let's dive on in. So at this point of recording, I have played maybe 10-11 hours inside of the Saints Row reboot and was actually pleasantly surprised with the way that the game played, all things considered, with the most recent review bomb that this game has received. With a Metacritic of 63, this has led for a bit of a confusing time for me. So after 10-11 hours inside of the game, I feel like I've experienced enough of the storyline, side missions, crew building, customizations, and all of that good stuff to be able to kind of give a bit of a valid opinion on things. Now, as it stands right now, this is obviously not a review, although a discussion with regards to the most recent controversies around it. But there is quite a lot of things that I do like and dislike with regards to the Saints Row reboot. We're going to start off with some of the things that I do enjoy, some of the things that I actually find have been quite fun to do inside of the game and the enjoyable experiences, and lead on to some of the more negative viewpoints inside of this game and how I don't think it's actually been too warranted about this massive review bomb that's been had around the franchise. So starting off, the actual way that the game plays is genuinely something you can kind of adapt to right off the bat. I did think that the running mechanic, the jumping mechanic, the shooting mechanic, all of these sort of feels were actually horrible. You do come round to the term pretty damn quickly, but I think that may be due to the factor of the games that you have played versus this game right here of a recent timing. It is kind of something you do have to adjust to and maybe adjust some of the settings so that it plays a bit more to your play style. But after a little while, it actually becomes quite enjoyable. The maneuvers around all of this and the way that you can utilize your character and the way you can run around, drive around, shoot, all of this sort of stuff genuinely becomes a bit of a growing factor on you, and it feels relatively good once you actually get used to the change in playstyle compared to a lot of other games. The story, although quite boring, is still quite enjoyable and does give you some giggles to say the least. There are still some of that Saints Row laughable factors inside of it, and especially the side missions probably are a little bit more enjoyable than the actual story themselves. With a little bit of a cheeky twist to a lot of things, it's definitely got the humour that Saints Row is kind of known for. Although it's not as dark as maybe some of the other ones are, this one definitely did give you the entertainment factor when it came to actually being able to enjoy some of the characters on the inside. Although not the way that you would do with a normal Saints Row game, I do feel like this game has kind of evolved more to the 2022 style of the way that life is. This is an open world IRL game with a little bit of a, we'll call it a quirky twist. But as it stands right now, it's not very often you go out in the streets and see any gangsters around absolutely anywhere. I feel like the motive behind the gangster movement has definitely passed, and a lot of criminal activity or any of that sort of stuff, gang members and stuff like that, are generally of a younger generation, and that is obviously an overall statement rather than just a obliterating factor. It is one of those things where I do think that they have tried to adapt to the relevant style. Social media is entailed inside of this game, and Kev is a massive soul parting of it. I think that they have kind of nailed this down a little bit wrong, although we're still quite enjoyable at different times. And although there's not loads upon loads to do, I still being able to find myself getting up each day, jumping on to go and find new cars and be able to go and do new side quests and generate new businesses and try and figure out the best ways to try and generate more amounts of money and actually feel like there's a bit more of a purpose inside of it. Do I think that it warranted the price that they actually charged for this game? Probably a little bit too expensive for the way that this title generally looks, but as an overall, I feel like I've definitely got my money's worth. with. Now, when we start talking about the negatives, these are the things that I kind of expected to see a lot more, and this is something which really did disappoint me on that front. When you think open world games, you think exploration, you think being able to find new things, you think being able to search and enjoy new landscapes and be able to enjoy new scenery. The main problem with this game is the accessibility and the liveliness of the actual city around it. When I've actually gone around the town and been able to enjoy my new cars after I've just upgraded them and changed them and souped them up and all of this sort of stuff, there's not a lot of liveliness around the streets, and although there is some people around, you get the generic movement and it's quite lifeless in that regard, almost like a copy and paste AI that we had the sore pleasure of having inside of maybe Cyberpunk. This is something which the replication scheme is quite terrible as well, and the individuality of a lot of these general public is absolutely awful. But not only that, but while you are roaming around this open world game, accessibility to buildings is also practically null and void. Some of my most favourite buildings inside of this game aren't even accessible. We have an absolutely tremendously looking Las Vegas style casino that we can't get into, even if it was a basis that we weren't able to play the games. Just being able to roam around the casino and enjoy the landscape inside and look at all the detail inside of the game that's being generated does seem to have a bit of a lazy feel to it. There's an entire region that looks like a castle and you can't get into any doorways. The maximum that we're kind of having right now are clothing shops, weapon shops, and maybe a lift that will take you to the top of a skyscraper, but you can't physically get up there yourself. You just enter a doorway and ping up at the top. For me, that kind of really takes the immersion of an open world game away, and that is something that I've really been disheartened by. Do I think that these are factors that should essentially warrant the game an absolute death straight off the bat? Not by any stretch of the imagination. There's still quite a lot to do inside of the game and quite a lot to enjoy inside of the game, that you can still feel like you're generating a crew, building up that crew, making the legitimate businesses, and then being able to spin those off with illegal businesses in the backgrounds, and be able to enjoy a lot of the factors of searching for new cars, new vehicles, hover vehicles, a lot of weapon customization and upgrading of weapons. Although the weapon schematics themselves, there's not exactly a lot of them. There is kind of a limitation upon the weapon unit themselves, which will essentially say that the generic Saints Row weapons that we may well be used to, with a lot of quirkiness and some really strange looking items, just don't exist inside of this game, one of which is quite a huge disappointment, if I'm completely honest. But as far as the game goes itself, I'm not too sure this giant review bomb that has kind of structured across the internet has been warranted at all. With around 25,000 concurrent viewers inside of Twitch's category for Saints Row, it doesn't seem that absolutely everybody hates it, and it doesn't seem like it has been taken as bad as maybe a lot of people would state. I think that the reason that a lot of people are kind of running off of this is the 2022 bandwagon, or at least that's what I like to call it. When we get a couple of reviews that go up, a lot of people who haven't played it will make judgment on a game based on the review itself. And I don't always think that game reviewers are always of the right mind to be able to decide whether a game is genuinely good or not based on the individual factors. I feel like everybody in this world is absolutely different. Some people may enjoy this game, some people may not enjoy this game, and unfortunately it does have quite a high pay bracket for it, and I think that is the main reason why reviewers and gaming companies now have such a high foothold, with the price of these games being at such a high price that people want to know the details before they go and spend their hard-earned cash. This does seem to be something that we're falling into quite a lot in 2022, with a lot of very good games being swept under the radar and a lot of AAA games being lazily made because they're going to get bombed down anyway. I think this is a frustrating factor, but I think Saints Row as an overall would be around about an 8 out of 10, and they would genuinely have a much better factor if they scaled more into the open world and the accessibility of buildings a lot more. They're just my general facts on what this game entails for me and how I feel about the actual reviews themselves. I feel like they are a little bit harsh and maybe a little bit overscaled. That's my opinion. I want to know what your guys are down in the comment section below. Make sure you leave a comment and let me know. We can get a discussion going. Thanks again for watching, guys. Appreciate your faces, and as always, I'll see you in the clouds.